right? So we completed this transaction, right? We made our purchase order, we made our deposits, we recorded it to our journal, posted to our ledger, and updated our subsidiary ledger. So now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and proceed with the next transaction because we are done here. So let's see what happened next. What did we receive? Yes. For what?
For the bistro table and chair set.
Yay. So here we finally have our tables and our chairs coming into the store. So in this case, let's take a look at our bill. All right, so we only ordered one item, so everything is calculated for you, nothing else here, right? We got charged tax, and we got charged shipping delivery fee for $50. Okay, so therefore, let's take a look at this bill a little more carefully, right? Let's go ahead and update our purchase orders so then we know that we validate that we did indeed receive our order. So in this case, purchase order. Okay. Let's see. Our tables and chairs was this one right here. And we did receive it. And we received this as invoice number 75. So we received a bill from Furniture Store. And here we're validating that. Good. We received it. So here, what are we still pending? We're still pending on our coffee brewer and grinder. And we just entered in our coffee mugs. So we're still pending on those two purchase orders. Okay. So let's go back to our journal. Okay. So here we have to validate a few things. We received our assets and we received a bill. So therefore, what's our conclusion here? Are we going to pay now or are we going to pay later?
Pay later.
We're going to pay later, right? How many days do we have to pay?
15 days.
We got 15 days. So let's go ahead and journalize our transaction here since our tables already included the sales tax and the shipping. My grand total came out to 660508. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to our chart of accounts. Okay, and let's locate our tables. So we know tables is considered furniture. So here is my 13010 bistro tables and chairs, or yes, and chairs. So 13010. So general journal. We received our tables already, and it's still the 8th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Received it on the 8th. Okay. Okay. We got bistro tables and chairs. Account number 13010. Okay. And once again, we received a bill, therefore, we're not going to pay it now. We're going to pay it later.
Account 20,000.
Account number 20,000. Okay. And for what total grand amount that we owe?
605 and 8 cents.
660508. 660508. All right. And once again, we do have all the information that's necessary, right? We received a bill from Furniture Store. Okay. And this was invoice number 75 and an indicator that we know this bill, right? We know that it's due in 15 days. Okay. Do you need to indicate that you purchased tables and chairs? No. The journal already says you already received tables and chairs. So in this case, that's good enough information right there. Okay. We updated our purchase orders. We're good to go. So now we have to update our ledger. Okay.
We're going to break it down to the total and the taxes.
Why do we need to break it down for total and taxes? What did we purchase?
I didn't say purchase. Well, I mean, the subtotal and the taxes, wouldn't we have to break that down in the journal?
Everything goes into the asset.
Yes. So that's why I asked you, what did we purchase? We purchased a fixed asset, right? What is always included in your total cost of the asset? Exactly. So in this case, is the shipping and the tax a part of the total cost of the asset? Yes. You don't need to separate it because if we're making a payment to sales tax, why are we making a payment to sales tax? Why do we need to indicate that we paid sales tax? For any reason that you want to do that, you can if you want to make those expenses separate and charge your company separate on those. But once again, those are going to be considered items that are considered a part of the cost of the asset itself, right? You make a purchase of a 99-cent apple, right? At the end of the day, how much did you pay for it?
99 cents.
Well, no, you paid 99 cents. Yes, okay, yes. So bad example because I forgot about tax. But yes, you paid 99 cents. But let's say I bought a broom for $1.99. I am subject to, at the end of the day, have to pay into the tax because that's my portion I paid into whatever contributing to society. But in that case, I walked out the door paying what, 208. The broom did cost me $1.99 plus tax. So at the end of the day, how much did that broom actually cost me? It actually cost me 208. And that's what you're going to record because sales tax is one of those things that you have to include into the price of the total cost of the asset. So the idea here is that you're going to include everything to get the asset to the store and get it ready for service. In this case, tables and chairs, it's pretty much ready for service the day that you receive it because anybody can sit in a chair and you're already using it. You know what I mean? So in this case, there's no necessary things I need to add in addition to for the cost of the asset, right? We just have to know that it's going to include everything to get it to the store, all right? So in this case, we're not paying separate taxes or separate shipping unless you want to use that as a separate expense. But in this case, when we look at depreciation, our the component says that the cost of the asset is going to be everything included to get it ready for service. Okay, so that's just one of those gap rules that you have to know because that's part of historical costs as well. Okay. All right. So in this case, no, there's no need to separate any extra costs for those because you're not separating them. You're not paying tax separately. Okay. All right. So therefore, my total tables are going to cost me $6,605.08. Okay. So let's go to our ledger. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is locate our tables and chairs. So it's under furniture. Here we are. Bistro, tables, and chairs. 6, 8. Here, note again is I can say 10 sets, okay, of 1 table and 2 chairs, right? That's what we purchased. Okay, we bought 10 sets of them, right? Post reference once again is now general journal number 3. And we acquired it for the $6,605.08. Okay. And here we also have to recognize that we also we received a bill and we're not paying it yet. So in this case, I have a liability. All right, top of the page of the liabilities. Again, that should be page 18 or even 19. And today is the 8th. And once again, you could choose what you want to place here. I'm just going to simply put the invoice number 75 because that I could pull up the invoice 75 at any given time and I'd be able to recognize that all the information is in there. Okay, that includes the vendor that I got, the order amount, and all the stuff that is included for that price. Okay. General journal number 3. Oops, so general journal number 3. And this time we're going to be crediting our account for the $6,605.08. Okay. And if we have included our little running balance here, right? We should have now went from $3,428 owing now up to $10,033.75. So we owe a lot. Okay. All right. All right. So now that we've indicated that we posted to our journal and we posted to our ledger, last but not least is we need to also indicate this in our subsidiary ledger. Okay, so here we going to our vendors, right? We're locating furniture store because that's the person that we received the bill from. Okay. And once again, we received this on the 8th. You can indicate whatever that you'd like. So in this case, I purchased 10 sets of tables and chairs. Okay. Right? We have the invoice number 75. We know this because it's in our journal. We are given net 15. So therefore, no discount. However, when is the due date going to be? If it's in the next 15 days.
June 23rd.
June 23rd. Okay, so therefore, we have to come up with $6,000 by June 3rd. Okay. Once again, the amount that we're going to be placing in the invoice amount is 660508. Okay, and we didn't make a payment. So if you copied the formula down, you should automatically update here saying that for this bill number 75, you owe a total of $6,605.08. And in grand total, you owe furniture store is $9,033.75. So here, we're owing a company a little bit too much. Right? They might not let us purchase from them anymore because we're already at owing them $9,000. Okay. So there we have it. All right.
Now I have a question.
Go ahead.
So for every transaction, just like the one we did,
Uh-huh.
okay, if we go to the general journal first,
Okay.
and then go to our general ledger, and then subsidiary ledger, is that like the order will most likely follow for most transactions?
Correct. Because this is how I'm telling you to do it. Now again, if once I give you guys the reins and you guys want to feel free on how do you want to do it, you guys can go from journal, subsidiary to general ledger, however you want, as long as you get those transactions recorded. Okay? But however, general rule of thumb, that should technically be so. Now, there's times where the general ledger doesn't happen until the end of the week. Okay? But then again, I'm teaching it this way because one thing is for sure. You need to know how much money you have in the bank account. You can't just be aimlessly throwing out numbers and just writing out checks for no reason. You need to know how much you have in your checking account in order for you to say, yes, I can write a check. Okay, so that's just general rule of thumb. But now, yes, just like the accounting cycle says, after you post to the journal, you must post to the ledger. Okay. Did you have a question?
Well, no, Mike. Well, I'm just trying to think of the easiest way of doing this, and it just seems that seems to be the order that we go. And I know, like, if we go into when we go into buying inventory, you would jump to say your inventory sheet and say put in your figures to do your math, so you could jump back and put your figures back into whichever journal you were in. But
Correct.
so that's why I'm just trying to get. It just seems as we're going, I'm trying to, I guess, figure out a rhythm to be able to just breeze through this.
Yes. Now, once again, that rhythm will be, like you just recognized, it will be disrupted because when we introduce it to the inventory worksheet, you may have to hit the inventory worksheet first in order to complete the general journal. And then in order to complete the general journal, then you can go ahead and complete the ledger and the subsidiary ledger. But again, at the end of the day, you need to check mark all of those things. So at the end of every transaction, you need to complete all 3 of those worksheets. Okay? So you don't have to go into a specific order, but in this case, it makes it easier because you've already journalized it once, right? So therefore, posting it to the ledger, it looks exactly like the journal, except you have a running balance. So if you already preset all of your accounts with those running balances, all you need to do is copy in the information from your journal into your ledger, and you're good to go. And then from there, any other extra information that you have to deal with, whether it's a person or not. So we may or may not even use our subsidiary ledger because once we introduce into sales, do we know who we're selling to when we open our store?
No.
No. So in this case, do you need to use your ledger, your subsidiary ledger?
No.
I mean, if you want to pinpoint every person's transaction, you can, but in this case, it'd be pointless to use the subsidiary ledger for strangers.
Right.
Okay, so we may not even need to use the subsidiary ledger for that given scenario. So once again, is there a real method to the madness? As long as you do the 2, which is your journal and your ledger, because you need to complete the ledger in order for you to complete the trial balance. That's number 1 thing there, because that's part of the accounting cycle. Now, do you need to have your subsidiary ledger? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't need to keep track of your vendors or your customers if you don't want to. Of course, that would be bad, bad accounting, because if you're owing all these people money, right? Right here, we owe freaking furniture store $9,000. Do you think that's something you can just forget about and not record it? Well, then you better make sure that when that bill comes around, are you going to remember to pay it? Okay? So if that's the case, that's exactly why we build a subsidiary ledger. So then here, we could see, okay, we have a few bills coming up. We have to make sure we have enough money to pay furniture store for 2 things on June 22nd. And if not, we need to make sure we have to come up with $6,605 by June 23rd. Okay, so that's the purpose of having the subsidiary ledger. But once again, if you don't think it's necessary to keep track of your vendors and your customers, especially when we introduce this part right here, if you don't go after your customers and they don't pay you for the services that they order from you, or items that they order from you, that's also not very good accounting there, because you're basically giving your stuff out for free and you're not keeping track of them. Okay. So definitely the subsidiary ledger is based on how you view it. If you don't care to view it and you could keep track of it in your mind, then do so. But subsidiary ledger is only useful for you if you want to keep track of your accounts receivable and your accounts payable accounts. Okay. But other than that, you're able to also take a look at your ledger, right? My ledger account, my ledger account here for my accounts payable account, I already know I owe $10,000. So, yeah. Okay. So, is there an easier way? But once again, as we continue going through this cycle and going through each transaction, you're gonna notice this. You're gonna become a lot quicker because it's the same thing going over and over and over and over and over again. So if you can think about it this way, if you could just go journal, ledger, subledger, journal, ledger, subledger, then you're gonna actually end up going a lot quicker. As long as you could continue that pattern. Okay. All right, hope that helps out. Okay, so let's see what else that we have here. So we entered in our journal, we entered in our ledger, and we entered in our subledger. Okay, so therefore, this transaction is complete. Okay. So then, what has happened next?
We gotta pay Miss Kim.
We gotta pay Miss Kim, right? Because if we didn't look at her subsidiary ledger, we probably would have missed this and she probably would have charged us. But if we got to take a look at our subsidiary ledger, so this, we would have noticed if we just kept going through it. Now, again, if you're an expert Excel, what happens is you can set parameters to highlight a specific cell for any, if you set parameters around it. So for example, if I set a parameter saying that if this cell indicates this number, it will highlight another color. So yes, you can do that. Okay, but in this case, I did not set it that way just because, once again, I'm only showing you the very basics of Excel. But yes, if I scroll down and find Miss Kim Robinson, right, it's going to be last name first. So Robinson Kim, here she is. We have a bill due on the 10th. So today is the 10th. So what do we got to do? We got to pay her. So let's go ahead and journalize it first and then complete our transaction. So when you're making a payment to Kim, what are you essentially doing? Since we received a bill, where is the bill currently located? In your accounts payable. So if I'm going to make a payment, what is my option here? I'm going to reduce my accounts payable, and I'm not going to give $1,000 in cash. Best way to do this is by writing a check. So therefore, I'm going to be writing a check to Miss Kim Robinson. So this is now the 10. Okay. We recognize that we're paying a bill, so therefore we're reducing the amount that we owe. Okay, and by doing so, we're also going to be decreasing our checking account because we need to make a payment. So in this case, how much is the total bill going to be for?
1,000.
1,000. So again, by using your subsidiary ledger, you'd be able to look up that invoice, right? And you could see that not only do you have to, it's due today, I owe her $1,000. So that's what essentially you can use this for. So instead of having the bill around, you can go ahead and pull up your subsidiary ledger, right? Because it contains all of your information for all the bills. So instead of having to look up that paper where you originally had Miss Kim sent you, you could just look up here because all the information for every single bill, for every single client is listed down here. Okay, so there we go. We owe Kim $1,000. All right, so accounts payable account is $20,000, which we paid $1,000 to. All right, And of course, we're going to write a check. So in this case, 10,100. All right. So therefore, we need to go visit our checking account. Or I'm sorry, our check register. All right. So we can indicate what date or what check number we wrote to her. So in this case, check number 1510 for $1,000. Okay. And who did you make this check payable to? Kim Robinson. Okay. Okay. And now I got that piece of information. So here, this is what I'm going to add under here. I wrote the check for Kim Robinson. Okay. You can write the invoice number if you have it. Okay. You can write that this was for the consultation fee. Now, most cases, you could do a reference point, which I will do, because in my subsidiary ledger, what invoice was it for? Invoice number 1502. That's going to tell me right here that I'm making a payment to that particular bill. So 1542. And how did I pay for it? Using check number 1510. Okay. I did not get any discounts for it, right? So here, pretty much gives you all the information by entering in information like invoice numbers. Okay. So there we have it. We have, we updated our check. We updated our journal. So we're done with our journal. So now we go ahead and enter in our transaction in the ledger. Okay, so now since we left off with the accounts payable, here now you could see by us making a payment to Kim, right? Now the amount that we owe is now going to reduce. Okay, so invoice number 1542, and what you're going to say is payment. So payment, and if you'd like, enter in the check number 1510 because that proves that we made a payment. General journal number 3. Okay, and we made a payment for $1,000. So therefore now look at this. By making a payment, you're reducing the amount that you owe. Okay, so now I went from $10,000.33.75 to now down to $9,033.75. Okay, so that's how accounting works. Is every transaction that you do, how it affects your business exactly, you could see it through your general ledger. Okay, here we entered that we owed money, and now we're making a payment, so now we owe less money. Okay. Of course, we also need to indicate that we have less money in our bank account because we made a payment. So this is how we determine already check number 1510, right? That because we are now going to be decreasing our account by another $1,000, so now here is the reason why we need to use our general ledger is now we are down to our last $6,102.42 in our bank account. Okay, because Kim Robinson, right, the minute she receives our check, she can go ahead and to cash it out. Exactly, right? So this is how we keep track of our checks that we write, our bills that we owe, and how we actually validate that this has gone through. So there you go. I updated my ledger. So now this is how I want you to use the subsidiary ledger. Okay? So right here, right? Here's a few things that you can do. This is how I'm going to teach you how to use it because once again, when you have information like this, you can you may have to make changes if you don't like it doing it this way, but this way allows me to keep track of it much clearer and allows me to fully understand each transaction that occurs. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to show you what you can do, okay? So first things first is I'm going to indicate the date, all right? And of course, I'm going to indicate that I paid with a check number 1510. And this was indeed matching our invoice 1542. However, what's going to be different here is that, of course, I'm going to recognize this was general journal number 3. What's different that's going to be here is I'm only going to be going into my payment section and indicating that I made a payment. Now, if you have your formula here, what you're going to notice is that if I were to go ahead and pull that formula down, notice this, right? It's a negative 1,000. Okay? So here is showing me right now that I am actually making a payment to this bill. And how much did I pay? I paid $1,000. So therefore, here you go. Therefore, overall in grand total for Kim Robinson, I don't owe her anything. Okay? Now, this is the reason why I want to show you this is because it allows you to see your transaction clear. All right? Now, what you can do is, let's say, I don't want to have to enter this information in here, right? I can just enter in, right, in this very line above, right? Let me find my backspace. This one, okay? Oh, no, backspace. All right, so for example, in this case, because we have Excel and you want to make it a little more easier, what you can do is you can just edit the information and say, I check number 1510, right? And of course, the date's going to obviously change because it's obviously not on the 7th. You didn't make a payment on the 7th. You made a payment on the 10th. Okay, and what you can do is you could actually just go ahead and place this in my payment window, right? And there you go. It tells me for this exact bill that it is zeroed out now. However, can you tell the difference between this transaction? How many transactions have happened in this line right here? Can you tell? No. So again, you can do it this way. It's a lot more cleaner. However, how I want you to do it is I want you to see every single transaction, okay? I want you to see it. So in this case, that's exactly why I want you to separate it because it would make sense. But that way you don't have to edit the information. You can just leave that transaction alone because that's telling you, okay, well, this date I received the bill. The next transaction is I'm making a payment to the bill. Okay, so therefore, you don't need to make any extra changes to anything, especially with the reference points, right? The billing information, you definitely want to make sure that you link them so you know that you're making a payment to this particular bill. But once again, you just fill in the payment section. It's going to reflect that you have a payment done. And at the end of the day, this entire amount that you owe for Kim could be zero. Okay. Now, of course, this also can apply in case you make partial payments. So let's say I didn't pay Kim Robinson in full. I paid only $500. Therefore, if I type in 500 here, it shows me I have a negative 500. So therefore, I still owe $500. And again,
What is that formula that you have in the accounts payable so it reflects the balance?
it's going to be your invoice minus your prepaid, minus your discounts, minus your payments, and minus your returns. Because here I have 0 minusing 1,000. Therefore, you should have a negative number.
Well, where do we have, so we're using the line above to reference.
No, you're not. Every line
Where's
is
the
separate.
1,000 at on the payment line?
It's on the second line. I'm
it
co-
says
I,
check 1510, where am I getting the $1,000 to sell reference?
you're not self-referencing anything. Okay, okay, start again. What's your question? So here, if I want you to do it, this is how I want you to practice using the ledger until you're comfortable using this. In this case, I want you to create a separate line. You're not using the same one for the bill. I want you to create a separate bottom line here.
The
And
question is, how do I get the formula for the accounts payable for the second line?
it's the same exact as this one, except you're referencing the second row. Okay? So if you applied your formula here and you copied it down, it should be relative, meaning it's going to take the second line's information. So in this case, this formula right here is going to be for the second row, invoice amount minus your prepaid for the second one, for the returns for the second one, the discounts for the second row, and the payment for the second row. Do you see the colors that are populating here? Okay, so if you made your first, oh, okay, I messed up. Okay, if you made your first right here, if you made your first formula here, Excel allows you to do relative cell referencing, meaning when you apply the formula, it's going to take everything in the next row below it. It's not going to keep it standing still in the first one because we didn't do absolute cell referencing. So in this case, I enter my formula once, I can apply it for the next row, for the next row, and then for the next row. So that's exactly what I did. Now, if you want to enter in every single row, you can do that as well. The only thing is that now you're only dealing with row, the second row, you're going to be indicating this. You're going to be taking the second row's information, the invoice number, minus the prepaid, minus the returns, minus the discounts, minus the payments. Okay? So then if I enter anything in this cell, it will recalculate it for me. Okay? Are you good to go with this one?
Yeah, that's all I was asking was how you got the formula. And
Oh,
I just
okay.
didn't know to drag it down. That was
Okay.
my question, how to get the formula from there.
Okay, yeah, that's what I did. I just dragged it down because it's relative. Okay. So there you go. So in this formula right here, it's gonna take it from my third row. All right, and then this formula right here, it's gonna take it from my fourth row. So I just dragged the formula down. Okay. So there we have it, and that's how I want you to look at this, use the subsidiary ledger for this reason, so that you can make sure that every transaction that you deal with this customer, this is exactly how it is. So when we dive into QuickBooks, you can see it's going to be a lot more easier, but it does the same thing, right? It records your bill, and then it records your bill payment as a separate transaction. Okay, so that's exactly what I want you to do here. I don't want you to use the same row to enter in that you made a payment, because then you're going to be having to enter in and fix and modify the whole first line, which in case we do learn that you shouldn't try to modify any of your information, because you can potentially mess up and screw your information up over. Okay, so there we have it. $1,000 payment, therefore it's decreasing my accounts payable by 1,000, me making my total amount that I owe to Kim Robinson 0. Okay. Any questions in regards to this? Okay. All right. So now that we completed our transaction, we can now move on to the next one. Okay. So what happened here on the 10th of Monday of June? Okay.
Proof for the bank loan, for the credit card.
Okay, we got approved for the business credit card. Okay, Visa, you got a $10,000 limit. Okay, and what are the rules and guidelines here?
Well, we're not going to journalize it because all we got was a piece of paper stating that we got the approval
Mm-hmm.
for what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, it tells you here that you have your rate. It's going to be 18% interest on your ending balances. Payments are due on the 10th of the next month. Okay,
But
so
can we still document it somewhere because of the gap rule?
yes, and that's exactly what I'm going to have you guys do. Is because there is no notes to the financial statements. Where do you think I should put this?
Liabilities?
Not your liabilities. Do you guys remember what place I applied for the business credit card? Where do we find?
Voluntary assumption under gap, right?
No, this would be full disclosure because this is information that's pertinent to a transaction, but it hasn't occurred yet. But it's definitely useful information because when the transaction does happen, we need to make a note that if we do not make a payment as soon as possible, we are subject to pay 18% APR. Okay, and that's where we're going to be charged interest on top of our bill.
Financial statement.
Okay, so in this case, we don't have a notes to the financial statement. Okay, so where do you think we can also place this information? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Where did we apply for this Visa credit card? Or to who did we apply for this Visa credit card? Where can, okay, but where can, okay, so in this case, who, when I say who, what am I referring to?
Well, the bank.
Okay,
Bank of Nevada.
okay, I did not apply to the main Bank of Nevada. Okay, but where can I find who? Where can I find
National
who?
Bank on June 6th.
Good. Okay, so it's a National Bank, a Visa Gold credit card, right? So where can I find who? Where is a place that we journalize all the transactions or have any information? Yes, the subsidiary ledger.
Ledger.
Yes, because now we're dealing with a vendor. Now we owe National Bank, National Visa Bank credit card, right? So here we are. Scroll up a couple and you should find them. National Bank Visa Gold credit card, okay? So here you don't need to write a date, but it's definitely something you can note because when you do receive a bill, you're going to automatically get that 18% APR on your owed balance, right? And you have a credit limit. So you can write credit limit. Hold on. Credit limit of $10,000. Okay? You don't need to enter anything in here because we haven't received our first bill yet, but this is definitely something you should note that you are subject to 18% APR upon your credit limit of $10,000. So whatever amount that you owe, right, you're going to be subject to 18%. But you have a credit limit, so make sure that you know by making sure that you keep track of your Visa credit card, how much money have you spent already? Because you only have a cap of 10,000. Okay?
Document the due date of the 10th?
Yes, you can. You can document that your due date will be every 10th of the month. So in this case, you can at least put it on your due date, should be the 10th. Good. So when you receive your first bill, right? Therefore, you have your 10,000. Now, did we spend our credit card yet?
No.
No. So can we enter in a bill information?
No.
No, because we haven't even used the credit card yet. We just got approved. It's in the mail. Now we take that sticker off, call them to activate it. Boom, it's ready to go. Okay? So here, I'm just making a note here because I don't have a note to the financial statement. So where can I place this information? Right in the subsidiary ledger. Because we know exactly who, we know what the terms are, and this is where we can put those kind of notes. Okay? So good. All right. So let's go ahead and see what happened next. Okay. So what did we receive?
The ceramic coffee mugs.
Okay, now let's read this
Periodic weighted average.
periodic weighted average. Okay. So we received this. So first thing I'm going to have you guys do is journalize the transaction to the fullest, and then we'll look at the inventory worksheet last. Okay? So here, what information do we see here? Okay? We received the coffee mugs, right? Oh, we get some terms. We get a discount if we pay within a certain amount of time. Here, we see that we have the items here. It's going to cost me $2.45 per cup, giving me a total quoted amount for $196. Okay, we did not get taxed, and then look, our prepayment has been entered into the bill. Okay, and therefore the total amount that I owe was only $96. However, I got charged freight for $100. So therefore, my real due amount is for the $196. Okay? So, how are we going to record this? Okay, we received a bill.
Inventory?
It'd be inventory. Now, what kind of inventory? Okay, wait. In this case, what kind of inventory did we purchase? Okay, so coffee mugs, but let's look carefully. How am I tracking this inventory?
Periodic weighted average.
Periodic weighted average. So therefore, what should be my journal for purchasing periodic inventory? Purchase expense. Excellent. In this case, right, because it's periodic, we don't treat it as inventory. We treat it as an expense. So we are looking at purchase expense. Okay. What else do we need to incur?
Right, it's freight expense.
For rate expense, because in this time, periodic inventory, we separate our costs. So we have a purchase expense and a freight expense. Okay. So let's go to our chart of accounts and find those accounts. Okay. So here we are at expenses. What account number is my freight expense?
0.
Okay, so that's purchase expense.
Freight expense is 6,300.
6,300 is my good. Where is my purchase expense?
61,000.
61,000. Okay, and how are we paying for this? Did we?
Prepaid accounts and accounts payable.
Yes. In this case, we owing them because we received a bill. Did I say anywhere that I'm going to make a payment today? No. So in this case, I owe money to this vendor. All right. But we made a prepayment. So therefore, what we're going to do is we're actually going to subtract that prepayment out, because this is the concept where we made the purchase of the voucher. So now that we're receiving our bill, right? We're now redeeming our voucher. So we need to get rid of that voucher to go ahead and reflect on our bill. Okay? So how do we do that? Simple. We're going to recognize what the details happened here. So we made a purchase expense and we made a freight expense, right? Okay? So let's go ahead and go to your journal. So we have purchase expense. Okay? And then we also are dealing with freight expense. Okay? So 61,000 and 6,300. How much was my actual purchase expense originally for? Without the discount or without the prepayment, what was my total bill amounted out for?
96.
196. Okay. How much was my freight charging me for? 100. So here on my debit side, it's 296. So therefore, on my credit side, I have to equal and match it. Now, one thing that we're doing here is we're recognizing that we're redeeming our voucher. Okay? So therefore, when we redeem our voucher and it's going against our bill payment, therefore, I think it's 18,600. Therefore, I have to recognize that my voucher is now being redeemed. So therefore, it's for that $100. So therefore, what does my bill say that I owe?
196.
We owe them 186 because it's $96 plus the freight of 100. So now my bill total ends up being the amount that I owe is going to be for the 196. So there we have it. My debits and my credits do match on both sides because I have a total of 296 on the debit side and I have a total of 296 on the credit side. Right here, I can already take a look at this. Like, I know this is even because I have 196 here, 100 here, and 100 and 196. So they're even. Okay. So once again, this is me redeeming my voucher for $100 and it's going against my bill. Okay. And once again, since I owe this amount now, I'm going to go ahead and say that I received a bill from All Things Ceramics. What was my invoice number?
126.
126. Okay. And once again, I have terms. What are my terms?
110 net 20.
110 net 20. So 1%, 10 net 20. Okay. Already right here. All right. So there you go. My journal is complete. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go straight to my ledger. Again, I've mentioned this
Can you leave it
before.
on the journal for a second, please?
So we're going to go to our subsidiary ledger, okay? What we're going to do here is we're going to enter it in. We will take a look at the inventory worksheet last, okay, in this order because I want you to see and take a look at the sheet, okay? But as we continue either making purchases of inventory or even selling our inventory, right, it will determine whether we need to use the inventory worksheet in between the workbooks here. So in this case, periodic inventory. Do we care about sales?
No?
No, because we take a physical count and whatever is not there, we assume it's gone. So, or we sold it. So in this case, for this particular transaction here, the only use I would use the inventory worksheet for is to enter in any purchases or if for any reason I need to return an item, Then I'll use my inventory worksheet because this is periodic inventory. We don't care nothing more to update their inventory except for our purchases. Okay, so here is our journal. So let's go ahead and update our ledger. Okay, first thing I have here is our purchase expense. So I'm going to go ahead and locate my purchase expense. So it should be the last couple pages in your ledger. Okay, purchase expense. Okay, I'm going to indicate that it is now June 10. And how many cups did I receive? What did my bill say?
80.
Oh, I only purchased 80 mugs. So here, I'm going to go ahead and indicate that I have 80 mugs. Okay. Post reference, once again, we're still on our third journal. Okay. We still got a long way to go. So we have journal number 3. And because we are debiting our expense, right, for $196, because that's what the original price is, right? 80 times 245 is going to give you a total of $196. Okay. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to reformat this so then I do get, because I will be looking at multiple entries of my purchase expense. So I'm going to make sure I format it the way I want to see it. Okay. Right. So that was entering in my purchase expense. Okay. For $196. Okay. Then the next thing I have here is my freight expense. So I'm going to locate it. It should be somewhere on page 35. Okay. So here we are, freight expense. I'm going to indicate this, that I received it on the 10th, right, for the 80 coffee mugs. Okay. Here, you could put the invoice number if you'd like. It doesn't really matter. In this case, I'm saying, well, this is the freight expense that I incurred on this date for carrying 80 coffee mugs. So in this case, that should be good enough. Okay. Post reference, once again, is General Journal 3. Okay. And it is for the $100. Once again, I'm going to format this again because we will have future more purchases of the coffee mugs. So there we have it. Okay, $100 in shipping. Okay, because we shipped a total of 80 coffee mugs. Okay. All right, so now the next account that we have is prepaid accounts. So let's go to our assets, okay, and we're gonna locate my prepaid accounts, which should be towards the bottom of page 16 or 17, one of those pages. Okay, prepaid accounts, here I am. Okay. And what I'm going to say here is, right, that this is going to be applied. Let me see, what was it? Down payment applied to invoice number 162. Right? 162 that's the correct one, right? 126. My bad. 126. Okay. And here we have General Journal number 3. And now that we're redeeming it, therefore, we're going to credit our account because now it's being applied to the invoice. So therefore, I'm going to subtract it out from my original amount. Okay. All right. And then we have one more account, which is our accounts payable account. Go to your liabilities. It should be at the top of the window. So now we're increasing the amount that we owe, okay, because we received a bill. And this was for invoice number 126, okay, general journal number 3, and we're increasing it by another 196. So therefore now we jumped up from 933 to now to 9229. I think that says 75 cents. So again, we are increasing the amount of liabilities that we owe because we received a bill, we owe them, so therefore now we owe a lot more money. Okay? Okay. All right. Is everyone good here? Okay. So next we got to do is we got to update our subsidiary ledger because this time we finally received our bill. Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and locate all things ceramics. Okay. Once again, we want to make sure that we indicate that this is a separate bill. Now, what you want to put in the notes here is that I received 80 coffee mugs. Okay. And you could be specific at $2.45 each. Doesn't matter. And then you could even say freight. $100. Right? So that was the bill, right? That's the information that we received on this bill that we purchased 80 coffee mugs at $2.45 each with a freight of $100. Invoice was 126. This was also in General Journal number 3. Now, were we given terms?
1% and 10 or net 20.
Okay, so therefore, yes, we did receive terms. It's going to be 1% due in 10 days. If not, the whole bill is due in 20 days. Okay, so with that piece of information, okay, when is going to be my discount due date? What day do I have to pay in order to receive my discount?
Gotta pay by the 20th.
You got to pay by the 20th in order to receive that 1% discount. If not, when is the whole bill due? All right, so you have two choices. You can either just link the previous one and add whatever the difference is, or if you really want to, you could just go to your previous date and just add whatever the net is, which is 20. So when is the bill actually due in full?
30th.
By June 30th. Okay. Now this is what I want you to do. What was my original bill amount if I did not have my discount or my prepaid accounts? What was the total amount on there? Okay, so that's my bill. That's what my bill reflects. But what was my total amount without my advance payment? So if I was billed this and I didn't make an advance payment, right? Therefore, what was my original bill amount due?
Well, it would be 0 because.
Okay. 296, right? Because if I didn't make my advance payment, right? Therefore, I would have owed $196 just to purchase the cups, and I would have had to pay the freight of $100. So my original bill would be outstanding for the $296. However, we had a prepaid amount. So that's where this number for the $100 that you were billed for in the previous section, you're going to apply it down here, okay, for the $100. And therefore, what does my bill state now?
196.
Exactly how much the bill is on my invoice. So this is how I want you to be able to take a look at this. This one, right, allows you to place the information exactly what it says on the bill, right? It shows that you made a prepaid advanced payment, a down payment, right, for $100. But the original bill itself was $196 plus your freight. But because this bill included a prepayment, if you look at the formula, right, a prepayment is going to go against the original invoice. So here it's taking the $296 and it's subtracting out my prepaid amount, which I did pay for in advance. I have proof of this transaction by me writing check number 1509, validating that I made an advance payment. And here it's now taking it off my bill. And now it shows me that I still owe a total of $196, which is exactly written on my bill. All right? So that's how I want you to utilize the subsidiary ledger. And this one, at least you could see your transactions and you could see where I'm pulling information from. Okay? So any questions here? Okay. All right. So when we do just a straight payment, only use the payment option. If we have a prepayment, okay, or an advance payment, you're going to pay for it first and then you're going to apply it onto your bill when you receive it. Okay? And that's how it goes. Right? Okay. There's all my information. I have my billing information. I have my discount due date. I have my actual due date. So here I've completed every single square except for my returns, discounts, and payments. Okay, but there it is. That's how I want you to collect information and apply it to this. So again, because we're dealing with inventory, you will be receiving some kind of terms if they offer it. Okay. So there we have it. So now we can finally move on to our inventory worksheet. Now notice this. We have other inventory that we will make purchases up for, right? But today we only made a purchase of our coffee mugs. So take a look at this. The table looks exactly what we've been practicing in class. This is the periodic table, and I even filled the information for you so you know that we will be calculating weighted average for our costing. It is for the coffee mugs, and it lets you know that this is periodic inventory. So exactly how we filled it out before, right? Now that we received the items, it is June 10th. We purchased 80 of those coffee mugs at $2.45. So therefore, what was my total purchase price? $196. And once again, how much was freight? 100. So therefore, what was the total cost of making this purchase of 80 coffee mugs?
$296.
Yes, $296. Okay, so I'm going to reformat this so it shows to me that we have it in comma style, so you can see all my decimal points. There it is. Now, because we are doing weighted average. What's the rule here? We have our first batch, so therefore, what should be my average cost per item?
370.
Okay, so we're going to take my 296, divide it by my 80 cups to get a total of $3.70. Okay, so if we were to sell it, right, obviously we have to wait to the very end. And here, because we're weighting average and looking at this table and looking at the ledger tables, you already know we will be making more purchases of inventory. Okay, this isn't the last of it. So therefore, we do not need to calculate our cost per item. But once again, this is for practice purposes only in case this was the only batch and the only batch that we will have. So your average cost here is $3.70. Okay. All right. When we take a look at our other inventories, we will be looking at perpetual inventory. So that means we will be jumping back and forth between the inventory worksheet and the journal and so on and so forth. And we will be looking at cost per item, looking at inventory on hand, and making the purchases of inventory. And we only don't have just regular coffee. We also have to deal with our supreme coffee as well. So here is going to be something that we will be looking forward to. Okay, so make sure that you are aware and letting you know now that the inventory worksheet, this is a perfect example of if you do open up your store, you can have perpetual and periodic inventory. In fact, you can have every single method if you like, but the only problem is if whoever the inventory manager is, they're going to be responsible for making these calculations. So if you want your employee to suffer by making it super complicated and saying, I have a total of 10 items that I sell, I want every single one to be a different costing method, you better be paying them a lot of money because this does take a long time. And especially, this is what I was talking about when you make those indications for perpetual inventory. If you don't keep a good track of it, just remember that may not be the only item you sell. So once again, for this scenario, there was actually 5 items I sold. I revised it to only reflect 3. So you're welcome. Okay. So once again, think about this, especially if you are looking into open up a company. In order for you to make a profit quick, you definitely want to sell more than one product. Okay. And this is an example where we're looking at 3 different products, utilizing 2 different methods, utilizing more than one costing method. So there we have it. Here we are completed with our transaction, but we have one more thing to do. We need to make sure that we update our purchase orders because we received our coffee mugs. And this was purchase order at 305. We indicated that we got our 196 worth of coffee mugs, and this was invoice 126. Okay. So, any questions in regards to this particular transaction? Okay. No. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and see real quick what happens next, so then see if we have some time to do this. So we have another purchase order. So let me see if we have time for the second one. Okay, we received our... Okay, so this one is going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is we're going to complete this transaction right here, and when we come back, we'll deal with the coffee brewer and coffee grinder when we come back tomorrow. Okay, so for now, let's go ahead and complete this last purchase order right here. So what did we buy?
Regular coffee and supreme coffee.
So, speaking of the devil, we are now making purchases of more inventory items, regular coffee and supreme coffee. So, when we receive it, it's going to be us using the inventory worksheet once again. So, here I'm already on my purchase orders. So, once again, today's date is the 10th. Okay, who did we make a purchase order from?
Alice Coffee Importers.
Okay, importers. Okay. Good. All right. Now, in grand total, what did I buy? I'm just going to say I bought 250 pounds of coffee. Okay. You can be specific, saying you bought X amount of regular coffee, X amount of supreme. In this case, I'm just saying I received coffee from them. Okay. Now, how much is my bill going to be outstanding for? Or what's my quoted amount?
362.50.
362.50. Okay? And that's where we're going to stop today. Any questions? So the next part is going to take a while, so I want to make sure we have enough time. So in this case, we do not have enough time. Okay? So, yes. So we're going to stop here today. It is close to 4:30. Okay. Any questions?